Today's date is May 11, 2025. We are having a Israeli Palestinian Confederation simulation with Udi Aloni. We are proposing a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine that will be elected by the people in the entire area that is called Israel-Palestine. That would include Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. We are not proposing substantive policies for that government. We are proposing a system of government for the entire area. We believe that the entire area deserves to have peace through democracy, with separation between religion and government. The Palestinians will have their government. The Israelis will have their governments, but we are proposing a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine that will be independent and separate from the Israeli or the Palestinian governments, and will be created independently and separately from those governments, whether or not those governments agree to it or not. You can see our Constitution, read it in 3 languages. ipconfederation.org is where you can find the Constitution, and it discusses the jurisdiction of the federal government, how it will be created in 3, it'll have 3 branches: the legislative branch with 300 parliament members, the executive branch with Palestinian and Israeli as equal, 1 president, 1 vice president, rotating after 2 years, and a judicial branch with Palestinians and Israelis as equal in all levels of judiciary, including the Supreme Court, who will have jurisdiction based on the Constitution. These 3 branches of governments will receive their power from the Constitution. They are separate from each other, independent of each other, and the entire federal government will be separate and independent of the Israeli and the Palestinian government. You can reach me at josephavasar@gmail.com. Today's guest is Udi Aloni. Udi Aloni is an Israeli-American filmmaker, writer, visual artist, and political activist. His work explores the intersection of art, theory, and political action. Aloni served as head cinema coach at the Freedom Theater in the Jenin refugee camp, and after the 2011 assassination of its founder, Giuliano Mer-Hamis, he directed an Arabic adaptation of Waiting for Godot, which toured New York. A vocal advocate for a binational state in Israel-Palestine, Aloni views Palestinians as sharing a common identity with Israelis, believing true fidelity lies in freedom for both people. His slogan, "From the river to the sea, all people must be free," reflects his vision. He also served on the advisory board of Jewish Voice for Peace, an American organization advocating for the end of the Israeli occupation. I met with Udi on Zoom. We discussed the issues that he wants to discuss in this simulation. Those are the right overturn, declaration of governance, ceasefire and reconstruction, definition of Israelis and Palestinians in the Constitution. Udi really focused on that aspect of definition of Israelis and Palestinians in the Constitution. Tomorrow, I am in Yafo. I am in this building that you see right now, and we will have a meeting at the Ruth Daniel Residence Hotel at 8 p.m. Jaffa time. It's on 47 Jerusalem Boulevard. And if you are in the area, please come in and we will have 2 hours of discussion, questions and answer about the feasibility of creating a federal government and how it would make peace for the people of Israel, Palestine. On May 25th, we will have David Malvoni. He supports the idea, the 2027 movement, to exit the state of Palestine. He believes in two-state solution, and he's building a movement to require the Israeli settlers to exit the state of Palestine by 2027. On June 8th, we will have Mubarak Awad. He is the founder of Nonviolence International, a global NGO with UN consultative status. And on July 6th, we will have Professor Elazar Barkan from Columbia University. We are simulating, this is a simulation, this is not a lecture, how a federal government will pass legislation that neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian governments will be able to veto. This is what we are showing, that it is possible if we garner enough political support from the people of Israel and Palestine. That's what it's all about. Then we will be able, the federal government will be able to pass legislation that would be acceptable to both sides, because they will not, politically, they will lose legitimacy if they oppose the will of their own people. Nasir, I hope you're here, is going to be handling the questions. I encourage you to ask questions, and even if you make comments, Nasir will translate those comments to a question. But I encourage you to ask as many questions as possible, because the questions are the best way to clarify the function of this federal government. We are not proposing policies for the federal government. We are proposing a system of government, and the federal government will be free to decide its own policies. We are only proposing a system of government. This is a short video that explains our vision. It's a 2-minute video. Some of you probably saw it, but others did not.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we are simulating how this federal government will function. I want to emphasize, it's a simulation. It's not a lecture. So we are going to be acting as if it is a federal government after we make choices of our function in the simulation. Let's start with a pre-simulation survey. Please vote right now. Do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine to make peace?
Hey, Joseph, is our guest here?
I don't know.
I don't think he's here.
Okay, well,
Okay.
hopefully I emailed him. Let me call him. Okay, publish the vote. 96%, 24 out of 25 said yes. And 1 out of 25 said no. All right, let me call Udi. Udi, if you're here, I'm going to call him on my WhatsApp. Apologize for that.
Hello?
Hello, Udi?
Yeah?
We started the simulation. We're waiting for you.
It's 11 now? Oh, man. Guys, 1 second. So I need your help. I'm sorry. I needed 2 hours now, a conference on Zoom. Can I be in the office or something? And there is internet there? Hello?
Yes.
I made a mistake in 1 hour, so they give me an office here, and I go to the office and I'll join it. Can you send me the link again?
I can send you the link again. I just sent you the link an hour ago as you requested.
Okay, I didn't see it. I'm in a meeting here, and I made a mistake in 1 hour because I'm not in Berlin. I'm in Athens, so I made a mistake in 1 hour. So
Okay.
I'm going up to the office, and I'll join you in 5 minutes. Okay?
All right. Hurry up.
Okay,
We have people waiting.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. He changed countries, so because of that, he made an error in the hour. Thank you, Nasir, for telling me that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I was looking through the names and I didn't see anything similar. And a lot of the people here are familiar, so I figured.
Okay. Let me know when he comes in. You know what? Let's wait for him. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to take some questions.
Why don't you tell us about the conference that you attended in 2 days in Jerusalem? Just as quick, if you want, rather than, or it's up to you, or take questions regarding.
Well, I actually, the Bejala meeting was fascinating. We went to this person's, I believe, person's house, and it's a nice house, but he's surrounded by settlers. It was like we were walking into his house. It was a group of people. We were walking into the house, and settlers were watching us from their windows, and I don't know what they were doing, but it wasn't pleasant to be watched like that.
So anyways, Beit Jala is, by the way, next to Bethlehem. So it's sort of just west of Bethlehem. Just for
No,
to
it
give it
was
context.
it was Sheikh Jarrah.
Oh, Sheikh Jarrah. You said Beit Jala. That's why. You said
Did I say Beit
yeah,
Jala?
yeah. You said
Okay.
Beit Jala. Okay.
Maybe I'm going there tomorrow.
Yeah. No, Sheikh Jarrah is in Jerusalem. That's a neighborhood in Jerusalem. But yeah,
Yeah.
you said Beit Jala. That's why I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, so we were a group of people that we went to his house. He was very hospitable. I mean, we sat in his balcony, and maybe 30, 40 people of us. And he told us the story of what is the fight is about regarding his house, his brother's house, that are, so basically, from what I understand, it looks, the Israeli Supreme Court gave them another 6 weeks, but I don't really, this is one reason we need a federal government, because I don't see, it doesn't really make sense for the Israeli Supreme Court to make decisions. I think Udi came in.
No.
Okay. It doesn't make sense for the Israeli Supreme Court that is not elected, that this gentleman that is, I think, is going to lose his house eventually. I mean, his stories were horrific. I don't know how he can fight this for so many years with rocks being thrown at him and his family, and a barrage of rocks on regular basis. Okay, I see Udi Aloni is here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm fighting against the unmute, and now I don't see how I.
So, if we had a federal government elected by the people with an honest Supreme Court, an objective Supreme Court, Palestinians and Israelis, they would have been, the whole thing would have been resolved in a honorable, amicable way if we had Palestinian and Israelis in the Supreme Court together. But it doesn't make sense to just have, that's what bothers me as a lawyer. This poor person, he's not part of never been given an opportunity to vote for the Israeli government. He's not a constituent of the Israeli government. He actually spoke good Hebrew, but he is not, he never had a chance to take part in the creation of the Israeli Supreme Court. Not only him, but all the Palestinians in the West Bank. And yet he has to submit himself to a court of law that he has no part of. He's a stranger in his own land. And that's totally unfair. It doesn't make sense. So
I don't know how to join you. I'm mute, and I'm no video.
You're
Can
not
you hear
mute.
me?
We hear you. You're not mute.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Udi, can you hear us?
Yeah, and I said your
Are you-
video is stopped. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, are you on a laptop or a phone?
iPhone.
Okay, give me 1 second. There should be on the bottom like a symbol for a phone, for a camera. You see it?
And you're back on mute, Udi, so you have to unmute again.
Udi, on the bottom, put your finger on the iPhone, and then you'll see a menu appear at the bottom. It'll have a mute button and a start video button.
So I'm unmute, and there is nothing on the bottom that usually I know.
Next to the mute, on the right of the mute, there should be like a video symbol.
So, Udi, now you're mute.
You need to unmute yourself, and maybe we can go on.
Let me see.
Listen, guys, I did a lot of Zoom. I unmuted myself, but somebody mute me from outside all the time automatically without me muting me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
We hear you.
So I don't know this problem, but every time it suddenly get mute by itself, your host asked you to start your video.
Yeah,
okay?
that's me. That's me.
Okay,
there you
I
go.
push
Awesome.
yes. I push yes.
Now we see you.
Yeah,
Now we
okay,
see
now we
you and
see
we
you.
hear you. Nice to see you.
Okay, so I was locked by you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So just to let you know, Udi, I read your introduction, and we did a survey of how many people support the federal government. We got 96% supported, and 1 person voted no. So that's where we are right now. All right, let's go on.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I'm in Athens right now.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining. So we are defining a confederation and a federation in the exact same way, based on the Constitution, which is at ipconfederation.org that we showed you earlier. Udi was concerned about the definition that are in the Constitution. At the end of the Constitution, we define certain terms. So Palestine is defined as the West Bank and Gaza. Israel is defined as the entire state of Israel, which is under the control of the Israeli government. Inhabitants are defined as people who permanently reside in Israel or Palestine in the last 180 days before the upcoming elections. Israeli citizen is defined as a person who is recognized under Israeli law as a citizen of Israel. Palestinian citizen is a person who is recognized under Palestinian law as a citizen of Palestine. Different citizen, for an Israeli citizen, a different citizen is a Palestinian citizen. For a Palestinian citizen, a different citizen is an Israeli citizen. Gender, masculine include both masculine and feminine. So Udi, you had some concern about the parliament members being Israelis or Palestinians. And is this definition clarifies the issue for you?
No, I see it differently if we want to raise it. I see that there is one space, Merchav Echad, from the river to the sea, that in this space there are 8 million Israeli Jews and 7 million Palestinian. And for me, the way to define it according to the two-state solution and then put on top of it a government we do wrong to the Palestinians, because for me if we have two parliament, Palestinian and Israeli Jew, there's no Israeli. There is Israeli Jew and there is Palestinian Arabs. And I saw two big problems. One, for the last 75 years, the Israeli Jews have the law of return, that by that they can create a much bigger population of the indigenous, of the native Palestinian, because they didn't have the right of return. So first of all, we have to say that everyone that have the right of return of Palestinian can join to this place. That should be a first condition to create equality, because you cannot keep the law of return without the right of return. Especially, we have to fix the thing that for 75 years there was no right of return, i.e., people who live in Russia that are hardly Jew can become Israeli immediately and vote, like million Russian that came there, while people who born in Tabaria, Haifa, Nazareth that live in refugee camps cannot come back home. So that's the first inequality I saw. And second, I think that Palestinians from Haifa or from Nazareth are the same people as the Palestinian in Gaza. The reason they are in separate places because they were expelled in some of them in 48, some of them even after. Moshe Dayan kicked many of them in 51 to Gaza. So they are the same nation. So the separation shouldn't be by the space, by the physical space, but by the connection to the nationality. Should be two nations, binational situation. One nation is Palestinian Arabs, the other Israeli Jews, and between them we should start to create the concept you created. That's how I see that. If I was clear.
Okay, so are you saying that until there is two-state, we should not create a federal government? Is that what the essence of your argument?
You can create a federal government from my point of view without even have two states. You can have two communities in this place that have each one can have their own autonomy in their own parliament, and then you can keep your federal government as you build it, but it has to recognize that there is no physical space that separates between Israel and Palestine. There is one land from the river to the sea, that in this land there are two nations that living. One nation is the Israeli Jew and the other one is the Palestinian Arab. And they live in different places. There's almost 1 million Jews in settlements. There are 2 million, more than 2 million Palestinians within the Israeli border in 48 lines. And it's very artificial to separate them and say, you are Israeli citizen. They are part of the Palestinian nation. The Zionist movement cut them from their nation. And the first thing we have to do a tikkun, as we said in Judaism, and let the Palestinians be first again one nation the same way, because today the Israeli Jews, they live in one space, in one connection as one nation. It's not important if they are settlers, if they are secular in Tel Aviv, if they're Haredi Jew, all of them voting, all of them have the right to civil court, all of them live equally. And then the Palestinians for 75 years lived totally shattered, cut to 5 pieces, like the one in Israel, the 48ers, the one in Gaza, the one in the West Bank, the one in East Jerusalem, the one in exile. And that totally cuts. First of all, before we create a national government, we have to give them back the possibility to be one nation, one unit, the same way the Israeli Jews have. Wherever they live, all of them belong to like Tamer Nafar, the Palestinian rapper from my movies that from Live in Red, he's a Palestinian, he's not Israeli. He is Israeli citizen now because that's how Israel defined it. But for him, he's Palestinian and he should be able to run to be a president as a Palestinian, not as an Israeli, for example.
All right.
There's a
That's my
question.
claim. I'm offering it as a claim, but that's my understanding of the situation.
Okay. So we are conducting a simulation.
Joseph, real quick, there's a question, and it kind of touches base on what Udi said, Eve, because go back to your first slide, because she mentioned something in the slide that's confusing. So Palestine, West Bank and Gaza, Israel, the entire state of Israel, which is under the control of the Israeli government. So she's asking, you have to clearly better define this because, as we know, Area C is totally under the control of the Israeli government. So in this definition, we have to say, because you're being inconsistent when you say Palestine, West Bank, and Gaza. Israel, the entire state controlled by the Israeli government. So that would include 70% of the West Bank or not?
It would include the whole area of Israel and Palestine. This is in relation to the Constitution. It's not in a vacuum. So the context of these definitions have to do with the Constitution. It is not meant to be a accurate description of the current state of affairs. It's only in the context of the Constitution. All right, this is the heart of our simulation. You'll have to assume that we were able to obtain major funding for a year-long campaign promoting the elections. In other words, the elections will take place a year from now, or have taken, and we were able to obtain major funding to tell the people of Israel and Palestine about that option, and that they have the right to vote and the right to elect people, parliament members and president and vice president, using their phones, using their computers, or friends' phones or friends' computers. And that people are registering to run and for parliament and for president and vice president. You will also have to assume for this simulation that 14 million people were given the right to vote in the whole area that includes the West Bank and Gaza. You will also have to assume that 5 million people voted, and 3 million people Palestinian voted, and 2 million Israelis voted. You will also have to assume, for the purpose of this simulation that we are conducting today, that 1.5 million people voted for president, that me, Joseph, was elected as president. I never intend to run as president. I'm not even qualified under the Constitution. You'll also have to assume that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts, and each district represents 47,000 people. So before I go to Udi to ask if he has any questions or comments, do the people in the audience have questions regarding these assumptions?
The election is from 1 year from now?
You'll have to assume actually that
In your simulation,
the election was completed and 5 million people voted, 3 million Palestinian voted, and 2 million Israeli voted, and 300 parliament members were elected, because we are conducting a simulation as if the election has been completed. Udi, do you have any questions or comments regarding these assumptions?
No, you said that already the election happened. The first thing I will do, I will try to convince people to change the foundation of the Constitution, because right now the way the election happened is in favor of the Israeli Jewish nation. So I don't know what how do I make the two laws that I have to change in order to do a re-election immediately is one, we have to do the right of return and give 1 year to any Palestinian in the world to join our space between the river to the sea, because for 75 years they couldn't do it. So
You already
really
said that. A question
okay,
for
but
you.
I tell you now, it's a law. It's a law that I want to do. It's a
I
law that I want
understand,
to
but
pass.
we have not yet passed laws. That's a law that you suggested, and I'm going to present it. But I am
Okay,
asking
so I will
you,
let you continue.
I'm asking
So
you
I
a
don't have
question.
anything. No, I have no question. Continue with the simulation. I have no question.
Okay, but my question to you is, you said we have to give them the right of return. Do you mean to have the right of return before we create a federal government?
Yes.
Okay, so who is going to give the Palestinian the right of return?
The whole situation you describe in the simulation anyway is utopia. So the same organization that create this place, the federal government have to say that until the Israeli sovereignty don't give the right of return, every Palestinian in exile have the right also to vote for this government, to the federal
Okay,
government.
you're changing subject. You said that someone has to give the right of return to the Palestinians before we create a federal government. And I'm asking you, what body will do that will give the Palestinians the right of return before we create a federal government?
The body that arranged the election.
I'm sorry?
The body that arranged the election. You have you had the body that make the elections.
So now I'm clear. So you said, let's have the election, and then the body, which is us, the federal government, will give the right of return to the Palestinians. That's what you're saying.
If that's yeah, I'm not a lawyer, I just know ethics. So if that's the way it can work legally, yes.
But you agree that there has to be a legitimate body that has the power to give the Palestinians the right of return. You cannot, under the current circumstances, with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments, they were not able to give the right of return to the Palestinians up to now, correct?
No, but who is the body that arranged the election? Before there is federal, who is the one that arranged the election? Who is the one that make people vote? Who is the committee, the election
our
committee?
organization was able to obtain major funding to create a year-long campaign. That's part of the assumption that you have to assume. You have to assume that 14 million people were given the right to vote. You have to assume that 5 million people voted, 3 million Palestinians voted, 2 million Israelis voted, that I was elected by 1.5 million votes, that Palestinian lady was elected by 1.3 million votes, and 300 parliament members were elected. And that we concluded that election. You'll have to assume that for the purpose of the simulation. Is that acceptable?
But for the purpose of the simulation, I would claim for the purpose, the voting that you got the money to arrange, there is a committee, the committee of election that create this vote. Am I right? There was
Correct.
but
yes.
This committee didn't have to give right for 14 million people. They have to give right for 14 million people and every Palestinian in exile. They have the right to vote for our federal government until there is right of return.
Okay.
That's my claim, that until there is right of return, we have to open the election to Palestinian out of Israel Palestine.
Okay, so you are challenging the legitimacy of creating an election without giving the Palestinian who are outside Palestine the right to vote.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's your challenge, and I'm asking you, are you willing to go on with the simulation, knowing that 14 million people were given the right to vote without the Palestinian outside Palestine, because we are not creating a Palestinian government, we're not creating an Israeli government, we are creating a federal government. So are you willing to go along with those assumptions for the purpose of the simulation?
For the purpose of the simulation, yes.
All right. So
with
now on,
tachat azhara, as you said in Hebrew. Like I'm doing it without consent, but I will continue with the simulation.
Okay. But we are now entering the phase of the simulation as if these assumptions became true. Is that acceptable to you?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
There will be a legislation later in which we make decisions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. So, for from now on, we are now acting as if we are the federal government. And we are acting in a simulation. So I'm going to be asking the audience to choose whether you are Palestinian parliament members or Israeli parliament members, and to remain consistent, intellectually honest throughout the simulation in your representing your district, because I may ask you, what district do you represent? So please make your choice now, whether you are a Palestinian or an Israeli parliament member in this simulation. Giving you, please make your choice. Are you a Palestinian parliament member or an Israeli parliament member? Okay, we have, can you publish the votes? We have 11 out of 18 that are Palestinians, and we have 7 out of 18 that are Israeli. Okay, perfect. All right, so throughout the simulation, you will be asked to vote for legislation as Palestinian parliament members and Israeli parliament members. We also need someone to act as Israeli prime minister. I don't know if Jeff usually is asked. Is Jeff here? Jeff Werner? Okay, do we have a volunteer to be the Israeli prime minister in this simulation? We need someone to be an Israeli prime minister, and we need someone to be as Palestinian president. Udi, are you willing to be the Israeli prime minister in this simulation?
I cannot. I am a Palestinian representative in my choice.
All right, then you will be, if you become an Israeli prime minister, you are no longer a Palestinian parliament member, and you will be given a veto power.
So you make me Israel.
Just stay that way. I think that you feel comfortable. Nasir, are you willing to be the Israeli prime minister?
Yes, but for the record, it will be me pretending to be Benjamin Netanyahu, not Nasir.
Right. And do we have someone who is willing to be the president of Palestine?
Listen, Joseph, maybe Nasir will be the president of Palestine and I will be the president of Israel. Something like that.
Okay, Shlomo is the president of prime minister of Israel.
Yeah.
And Nasir is the Palestinian president. Okay. This is just to demonstrate how the federal government works. It's not to try to convince you of the legislation. All right. Let's go to our first order of business, and that's the Constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the Constitution if you're here?
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
So this is a short version of the long Constitution. It basically says we do not intend to undermine the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We're not a subversive organization. And we will agree to constitutionally to whatever agreement the Israeli and the Palestinian governments agree between themselves. If they decide on two-state, one state, or any combination of agreement, constitutionally, we are required to accept any agreements between those governments. We also constitutionally required to give a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments if our laws violates their sovereignty. So does anyone have any questions regarding this Constitution before we go to Udi and give him an opportunity to ask questions or make comments? Do the people in the audience, the parliament members or the audience, have any questions regarding this Constitution? All right, hearing no questions, let's go to Udi. Udi, do you have any comments or questions regarding the Constitution? I don't hear from him. Let's
He
have
looks like
the.
he's frozen.
I'm
Looks
not
like he's
sure I
frozen.
know to do the simulation. I'm not sure what?
Okay, you don't need to vote. You just need to voice your opinion. You are our guest.
Okay. My opinion that the first thing we have, as I said, and then I will repeat myself like a parrot, so it's a problem. We have to speak that the structure of the Constitution itself, the first thing we have to change the Constitution, I think. That's the thing I want to
Okay,
put for
what part
voting.
of the Constitution specifically do you disagree with?
I think that the structure shouldn't be according. I believe that when you said Israel and Palestine, you relate to the 67 borders, to the Green Line. That's how you separate between the West Bank, Gaza, and Israel.
No.
So, by how do you cut it? Where do you cut it?
We don't.
But you said that there are people who citizen of Israel, like the people of East Jerusalem. I have a question first. The people of East Jerusalem that are what are they? They're Palestinian or they're Israeli? The
As far as
Palestinian
voting or as far as being elected?
for both. What are they? Because it's a weird creatures, right?
If they
They're like
are,
almost
it depends. If they are citizens, if they are recognized, let me go back to the definition. If they are inhabitants of Israel or Palestine, and if they are recognized under the Israeli or Palestinian law, then they can vote. They are allowed to vote for the federal government.
Nasir, you have more. I see the numbers. I see you have all the data. How many Palestinian citizens of East Jerusalem exist?
400,000.
So we speak about 400,000 that living in the sovereignty of Israel, have the green, have the blue ID, but cannot vote for the government.
They only can vote for municipal elections.
Yes.
Just to
So
give
what?
people a status. So the status of most Palestinians that live in East Jerusalem, they are considered residents of the state of Israel. Not only are they residents of the state of Israel, but their status as residents is on condition that the center of their life is in Jerusalem. So if they leave and go study abroad or go work abroad or get married to someone or go to the West Bank, they lose this status.
Okay, but you're talking about their current status with the Israeli and the Palestinian government. We are now simulating that we had an election, 14 million people were given the right to vote in the entire area of Israel, Palestine. And I am asking you, under the, and you said you're willing to go along with the assumptions for the purpose of the simulation. So my asking you specifically, what part of the Constitution do you disagree with?
Okay, now when you vote, I put the first thing that I don't agree with the entire Constitution. I think it's based in the Constitution itself, based on a wrongdoing that the colonialists did from the beginning on this area, and we have to change it from the beginning. We have to kill. We have the first thing in the Constitution. I have to say that there is no any law that can represent apartheid. The situation of the citizen in East Jerusalem is exactly an example that there are residents of Israel, but they cannot vote for the government. For example, there is also the right of return, and there are many laws, because the relationship you create is as two nations that come equally to this place. And I claim that there is a place now, especially it's hard for me, because now we are in the middle of a genocide. So to create a situation like in one day we create two governments, and then there is a top government. No, the first thing in the Constitution have to be reparation. It means, first of all, we have to give the Palestinian everything that has been taken from them before we are starting to create a place of equality. First of all, we have to create two equally power nations. And right now, first has to be reparation. The first things, we have to give land back. We have to say that the line of 48 is a fake line. We have to say that the citizens of East Jerusalem are in a place of a void. We have to say that the apartheid is still in the structure of the Constitution itself. So we have, as a first group, like Robespierre or something, we have to rewrite the entire Constitution on a different concept, that there is people that are native, that are the Palestinian, and a newcomer colonialist came and changed the whole power system. And the first thing, we have to rebuild again an equal power system, and only then start the simulation that you offer. So the first step I'm offering is to change the Constitution. The first vote.
Okay, I
is to
understand you're
change the
saying that. Is
Constitution.
there any specific paragraph or phrase in the Constitution that is presented to you that you disagree with?
Nasir, can you help me here? You're the president of Palestine right now, no?
Yes. How can I
Can
help
you
you?
help me here to clarify what I try to
Well,
claim?
you're our guest, and we are presenting a Constitution to
So,
you.
le-
And I'm asking
let
you,
me-
is there anything in the Constitution, rather than saying summarily,
Yeah.
you
So I
disagree with
said
everything
because-
in the Constitution?
let me ask you,
I'm
Udi,
asking you, is there
let me
anything
suggest
specific
something.
in the Constitution that you disagree with?
Let me suggest something, Udi. I understand completely 100%, and I actually even agree with you. But let's give the process a chance, and let's introduce some legislation, and let us see how it works, because I think you'll get a clearer idea. Because as Joseph says many times, this is not a perfect system, but it's a system that doesn't deny anything that you're saying or what some of the people in the comments are saying. But it is a mechanism, and could be a mechanism to achieve those goals. So how about we introduce some legislation and see how the system works, and then we can maybe be
Okay.
more critical.
All right, let's ratify the Constitution, Palestinian, and
Joseph,
please note, you were elected as parliament member, and you must accept the Constitution to ratify the Constitution. Otherwise, you are expelled from the parliament. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please ratify the Constitution. Palestinian parliament members.
May I explain something to Udi here? Just one sentence.
I think let's go on. Let's go on.
Joseph, you're putting a situation that is not clear. Let people try to explain me. It's okay. There is two people who try to explain me. They know the
Look,
process.
this is a simulation.
Yeah, in the
and we need to
simulation,
move
I
on.
ask her, in the simulation as your guest, I'm asking a response from
Okay, no problem. All right.
I'm not-
I will let him explain to you.
Just one
Okay,
sentence.
publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members ratify the Constitution. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. The Israeli parliament members, please ratify the Constitution. And then we will let Shlomo explain something if he wants.
One sentence. Let's just assume between the river and the sea, there are people who define themselves as Palestinians, and there are people who define themselves as Israelis, and that's it. And then we divide. You didn't. I don't know if you showed it, but we divide the country to many zones.
Okay, share the results.
And that's it. Every zone is represented.
100% of the Palestinian, the Israeli parliament members ratify the Constitution. So, Shlomo, do you need to explain something?
And there are Palestinians and there are Israelis between the river and the sea. And between the river and the sea, we have many zones, and each zone has its own representatives. And if it is majority of Palestinians, it will be more like, and so on and so forth. So this is just a very first step. Then we have this constitution. Then we have legislations where we can decide, okay, reparation, the right of return, all of these things can be decided then. That's how I see it.
All right, thank you. So we ratified the Constitution. Congratulations. This is a momentous occasion, in historical occasion. This is the first time that a secular constitution has passed in the area of Israel, Palestine. Historical, never been done in the history of humanity. It undermines the existing government's use of fear and hate to justify their actions. It removes the collective stigma against Israelis and Palestinians, and it provides huge political capital to the parliament members and to the president so that he can demand that it compels the governments and organization to contribute and give the Israelis and the Palestinians new self-image and prove that Israelis and Palestinians are not monolithic society. So this is an occasion that we need to celebrate, and we are acting in a simulation. So we are simulating that the Constitution has passed, and congratulations. All right, let's go to the first order of business. Now we have a government, we have a president, we have parliament member, we have a constitution. Let's have the first order of business, and that's granting a veto power to the separate government. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
So why do we give a veto power? First of all, what's indispensable? If the government, if we pass legislation regarding the use of land or police force or removal of the wall, the governments may be indispensable. But on issues relating to our budget or ratifying the Constitution or appointing our own ministers or judges, they are dispensable and they do not get a veto power. We give them a veto power to provide a safety net to both sides. It increases the likelihood of Israelis and Palestinian participation, decreases the Israeli and Palestinian government's opposition, and removes any claims that we are a subversive, that we have subversive intentions because we give them a veto power. And it gives legal protection to our candidates and compels the IPC to thread the needle. In other words, to find the least objectionable legislation to create a platform for negotiation with a deadline. Before we go to voting, does anyone have any questions regarding the veto power legislation that we are passing? That's not the Constitution, that's legislation. All right, hearing no questions, let's go to Udi. Do you have any comments or questions regarding this legislation?
I prefer to be more observer now until I understand more exactly what's happening. Let's continue.
All right,
I'll be
let's
more.
have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Publish the votes. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members agreed with this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Publish the votes. 100% of the Israeli parliament members. So we are demonstrating how we are threading the needles. In other words, creating legislation that would be acceptable to both sides. And this is the first, this is the issue that Udi wanted to talk about, and that's the right of return. This is a legislation that we are attempting to pass, provided that no veto will be issued, I hope. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation, the right of return?
Original refugees and their immediate family members are granted the right of return to Israel, Palestine. Those who exercise this right will receive Israeli Palestinian Confederation citizenship, in addition to any other citizenship they currently hold or may be granted. The IPC shall establish a worldwide fund to assist those who choose to return and resettle in Israel, Palestine. Funds will be distributed based on need to ensure a smooth and dignified return. The governments of Israel and Palestine are granted veto power over this legislation, which may be exercised within 60 days.
All right, so does anyone, including Udi, do you have any questions regarding this legislation before we take a vote? All right.
Just to clarify,
Yes,
original refugees and their immediate family. So you know that this Nakba started in 1948, so that was like 70 something years ago. So is
no,
it only
all
those?
refugees.
But it says
that
original refugees. What does that mean, original refugees?
It means people who lived in Israel, Palestine, and became refugees.
But I mean,
Regardless of time.
Not only refugees, if they went to Sweden and become a Swedish citizenship, they still have the right of return, the same way that American Jew can
that's
have
why I
the
want a
right.
clarification, because it says original, and my understanding of original refugees would people who were displaced in 1948. So therefore, like a grandson of someone who say, for example, he's dead now. Is that an original refugee?
If, let's say, a person X lived in Palestine and became a refugee, his grandson who was born in another country is not an original refugee.
Okay.
He's not?
He's
Now
not an
let it go
original
to
refugee.
let it go through the process. You'll see.
All right.
Maybe now
But-
Udi can say what he because
Yeah, I think that the right of the definition has to be changed because the same way that every Jew.
But Udi, let the process go, and when it comes to the veto or something, then you'll see how the process works, and then we
All
can.
right. let's have,
But we are in the process already. This is the time for Udi to exactly say what.
yeah, we can change the legislation if it pass. All right, let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Do you support this legislation? Palestinian parliament members. Udi, you are a Palestinian parliament member from what I understand.
No, I kept myself out of this system voting.
Okay, all right. Okay, publish the vote. 80% of the Palestinian parliament members agreed with this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament members, please vote on this legislation. We need 55% of the Israeli parliament members to pass this legislation because the Palestinians already passed this legislation, published the vote. We have 75% of the Israeli parliament members agreeing with this legislation. Let's go to the president of Palestine. Mr. President, are you going to veto this legislation?
Yes, I'm going to veto this legislation. This is a discriminatory legislation. This denies the right of return for the generations that were born because they weren't alive in 1948. And also, it is discriminatory because the right of return is the rule of law in Israel for Jews who have no ties to the land for the last 2,000 years, yet denies it to Palestinians who just one generation ago had ties with it. It's absurd for us to ever even consider this. And for the Palestinian members who voted for this, shame on you.
Mr. President, you never passed the right of return legislation. In fact, you never brought it up. So we are the only government that brought up this issue. We are affording the right of return to all refugees, original refugees, unlike your government. Are you sure you want to veto this legislation?
I am sure, and historically you are wrong. The Palestine Liberation Organization, since its inception, has been fighting for one thing: the return of Palestinians to their homeland. So for you to say that we have never brought this up or never offered a solution.
I didn't say you didn't bring it up. I said you never passed legislation and you never succeeded.
The whole existence of the Palestinian Authority is the creation of a Palestinian state for the homeland for our people to return home. That's what our whole existence has been about.
Okay, Mr. President, I want you to think twice about this because you are harming the Palestinian people by insisting on perfect legislation. Don't forget that we have the Israeli side, we have the Israeli Prime Minister, and if you insist on perfect legislation, you're shutting down all possibilities. We are 77 years into the conflict.
I don't expect perfect resolutions.
May I interfere now?
But this is far from perfect. This is actually imperfect.
May I interfere now?
I agree. It's imperfect. Yes, Udi, please.
It's not imperfect. It's much worse. You continue a totally colonialist action. You're patronizing him. You tell him if it's not perfect, it's like if I tell gay people or women, if I tell you women, why wouldn't you agree that we'll give you some right, but still not even abortion right? Like if you try to create in the Constitution, you try to ask for equality. If Jews that hardly never been 2,000 years in the land, most of them are from Khuzari people that convert to Judaism somewhere, if they have the law of return, there is no any way that you ask him to compromise by telling him it's a better thing. The only equality that is so simple, the same way that for us men and women are equal, that's no discussion about it. The same way, and trans and LGBTQ, of course, the same way equality is equal. Everyone who defined himself as a Palestinian, that either his father, mother, grandfather, or something will be is Palestinian, have the right of return, the same way the definition on Jews. there is no way that this, by you not doing the law, what the president of Palestine say, you destroying in your own hand the federal government before even it's existed. Because if
All
you
right.
don't keep originally the
you-
equality between the two sides, in this moment, colonialism always find a way to pretend to be democracy and control the minority. It always was the game of colonialism and liberal
Yeah, but
democracy.
we are a parliament of Palestinians and Israelis. We passed this legislation, both Palestinians and Israelis. And I agree, this is not a perfect legislation, but why don't you, instead of just complaining that this is not perfect, why don't you suggest an alternative that would
My
be
alternative,
perfect. Remember,
listen, you
we are
already,
77 years into this conflict.
I'm in the simulation now. You already tricked us with the Oslo agreement. You tricked us already once. We are not
We did
full.
not. I'm a president of the whole area.
You're not.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you,
You're
you're not. But you're not
misrepresenting reality.
You're function like, listen, you want simulation? Let's go to the end. You're now, let me speak in the simulation. You're again do a repetition of a white Western colonialist that act like you're president of everyone, but you still maintain the right of the European over the natives. Because it's very clear that if you don't give the right for every Palestinian to come back home the same way you give to the Jews, the only solution we have is in a way go back to arm struggle until you understand what is a true equality. Because if you create an
I'm
institute
sorry,
that
we did not give any right of return to the Jews at all.
there is right now, it's a fact.
The Israeli government gives it.
Okay,
but we are trying to create a right of return for the Palestinians that would be acceptable under the circumstances. And you are saying,
first of all, I want to
you're
suggest
saying,
that,
let me finish. You're saying unless it is perfect, you're willing to throw away the whole thing because, and you're not demonstrating any alternative to achieve the perfection that you insist upon.
I disagree with you. I think that you're ready
What is
to
the
give
alternative? What is your alternative?
Is very simple. My alternative is to do the registration that not you defined it, but let's do that very simple. The right of return will be equal to the law of return for the Jews. That's it. That's what you do the registration.
Okay.
Very
And
simple and clear. And let's do a vote for it.
Okay.
Let's do a vote. Let's do a vote. I'm calling for a vote.
Okay.
Let's go and vote for my registration now.
That's fair enough. Let me write it down right now, and we will. But let me ask you, Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
Absolutely. We, as a Prime Minister of Israel, we want exactly the opposite. We want all the Palestinians out. We want only Jews, you know, a nice Zionist, racist, anti-Semitic state. You know, we don't want. Yeah,
Okay. Will you agree to legislation that equalize the number of Palestinians with the number of Jews allowed to be immigrated into Israel and Palestine? Will you agree to that legislation?
Absolutely not. We want a majority.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Vast majority of Jews.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that so this legislation did not pass. Let's go to the next legislation because we're demonstrating how this government will function. We are not trying to beat a dead horse to the end. All right, let's go to the next legislation, and that's Declaration of Governance, Ceasefire, and Reconstruction. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
Okay, 1. The destinies of the Israeli and Palestinian peoples are inseparably linked, and only a unified government can restore peace and stability. 2. The IPC declares an immediate and unconditional ceasefire and demands the immediate release and return of all political prisoners, in both Israel and Palestine. 3. The IPC launches a national reconstruction campaign to rebuild thousands of homes, roads, hospitals, civic institutions, and critical infrastructure, enabling the prompt return of displaced populations to their communities. 4. The IPC proclaims the restoration of law, order, and civil society as a national priority, recognizing that peace is not possible without justice and social stability. 5. The IPC shall retain exclusive authority over the Gaza Strip until a freely and fairly elected Palestinian government assumes power in Gaza in accordance with democratic principles. 6. All legislative, executive, and judicial decisions related to Gaza shall be enacted by the full IPC government under the IPC Constitution. And 7, the IPC calls upon the international community, including the governments of Israel and Palestine, to provide a $50 billion grant to fund this urgent reconstruction and reconciliation effort. The governments of Israel and Palestine are given a veto power over this legislation.
Thank you, Libby. Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Including Udi.
Yeah, the Prime Minister of Israel, would you veto this? I'm asking the Prime Minister of Israel, would you veto that?
There's no
Well,
veto.
we need
There's
to,
no
we need
veto.
to,
This
there's
is
nothing to veto because we
Yeah.
haven't taken a vote yet.
That's
Yeah,
what
but
you
also-
did with him before. One second.
But this
before
legislation,
we
this
put
legislation is not subject to veto. Did you see that? Oh no, I'm sorry. It is. It is. My bad. My bad. Go ahead.
the same way that when I offer a motion, you ask the Prime Minister of Israel to say if he will veto it or not before you put my motion for vote. I'm asking him now also the same way you did with my motion before we even do vote. Are you going to veto this?
I'm sorry.
I'm
Udi,
going exactly.
I am the president, not you. Okay. My intention
So I
is to
suggest
get
maybe this time.
the legislation to pass. Okay. So
So let's
you have
do
any
this vote
questions
according
regarding?
to you. Yeah.
I would like the legislation to pass. I do
would-
not want to create conditions that would prevent it from passing. Okay, so
So I will let you do this vote, and after it, I let you do this vote, and after it, I would like to move to the part that I'm speaking with the people as a guest, and
sure, yes, that I think
because
that's,
I'm in a very
all
weird
right.
situation
Okay,
here.
let's have
Yeah.
okay, let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Publish the vote. Also, more than 100% voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the President of Palestine. Mr. President, are you going to veto this legislation?
I'm not going to veto this legislation. However, our position is going to be that Gaza is an integral part of the state of Palestine, and that its decision, what happens to it and everything, comes back to us. And also that the Arab initiative we met in Riyadh, and we already agreed on a $55 billion plan to rebuild Gaza. But
All
in
right,
the
thank
end,
you.
Palestine has self-determination over its territories.
All right, thank you for not vetoing the legislation. Let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
Yeah, I tell you, number one, you talk about only unified government can restore peace. And What do you mean by unified government? We are the Israelis, right? I'm representing the Israeli.
This is a statement of opinion. This is not part of the what we need to act upon. This is just a proclamation that we believe that only unified government can restore peace and stability. You think that your government can restore peace and stability? That's up to you to think that way. That's only a statement of opinion.
Restoring peace and stability, this is not my goal. My goal is the opposite. Is a war and instability, because then I can really control more people, and both the Israelis and the Palestinians. But okay, then there is another problem here. So yeah, I would agree if you kind of disregard one and go to the rest, it's okay if and only if we have control on what's going on in Gaza and who is building and so on. So we want some control on this operation. Otherwise, it's okay.
Okay, so if we work with your government to make sure that the construction is done in accordance with engineering principles, would that be acceptable?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So,
But if
wonderful.
let me if that's the case, then I will veto, because you're accommodating to what the Israeli wishes to do in our territories in our country. Now, if you were to say something, a common board that gets together and advises and stuff, that's a different story. But if everything has to be approved by Israel, this is against our sovereignty.
We were talking about engineering principles.
But you said in Gaza. Why should the prime minister have a voting or decision-making process in regards to Gaza? It doesn't affect his country.
No. He is asking that we will implement engineering principles that are consistent with Israeli principles. The same with you. If you insist on meeting Palestinian engineering principles, would that be okay?
So yeah, there is another point here about, okay, if it is purely construction and such versus whether to make sure that there is no weapons coming in and that there are not
Mr. Prime Minister, don't you want, Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, don't betray our faith in Israel. You don't want Palestinians there. You're trying to transfer them to a third country. So why to put so much money? Then don't you want to kick the Palestinians out of Gaza? This is not your target?
It's a very good
point. And to build settlement of Jews in. You said you represent Bibi Netanyahu. Don't you want to put settlement in Gaza and kick out the Palestinians? This is not your goal?
Very good. Okay, as Bibi Netanyahu, yes. If I am a leftist kind of a government who wants two-state solution, then this is okay. So you're right. If I'm representing the current government, of course, there is everything is no. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay.
And also,
so
if
you vetoed this legislation, I am the president of the entire area. I was elected by Israelis and Palestinians, and I will work to either try to pass legislation that would be acceptable to amend the legislation. And if you insist on continuing to be negative about each and every aspect, then I will work against your governments to make sure that your governments will be removed and you will receive a no confidence vote, because you are exposing the people of Palestine and Israel and are taking into consideration your own political aspirations rather than the true needs of the people of Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. So whichever you want me to represent, if you want me to represent,
I think look, we are demonstrating how this thing could work. Okay, like I said, we're not really offering any substantive. We are saying that the bottom line is we are trying to demonstrate that if we have a federal government that has political legitimacy, it will have a lot of power to put pressure on both the Palestinian and the Israeli government. Okay, let's have the post-simulation survey. After participating in the simulation, do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? Okay, publish the vote. Okay, one person voted no. Could you please identify yourself, that person that voted no?
That was me, Eve, and I just put an explanation.
I'm sorry,
in the chat, but under
who are
so
you?
This is Eve Susskind. I'm one of the.
She responded in the chat.
Okay. I think,
and I put my explanation for why in the chat.
Okay, what is your opposition to a federal government?
It's not necessarily to the federal government. It's to this current form of the federal government, because it seemed, what I said in the chat is that what this simulation seemed to demonstrate is that the veto power will always result in undemocratic decisions that don't represent the majority of the people. And so if there was a mechanism in the Constitution that allowed an override of the veto by direct vote of the people, I think that would be preferable. I don't really see how the current version can work without that.
So you're saying similar to the US, the president has a veto power, but there is an override mechanism.
Well, except that I would improve upon the American system by having the override mechanism be direct vote of the people, not by a rigged parliament.
Well, the problem is that overriding a veto in Israel and Palestine would be very difficult to achieve, because the Israeli and the Palestinian public is so nationalistic that they will not agree to have an override of their government.
But that's not what was just demonstrated in both votes of the two parliaments. The majority was to support the legislation, and yet one of the parties vetoed.
I see. So override regarding a specific legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. That's a valid reason. All right, let's go to let me just so I'm going to make a closing remarks. I believe a common democratic confederation government can bring peace. Online elections are feasible. We can have this election. Probably the cost of it will be $100 million. Currently, they are spending billions of dollars on war. The current governments are not democratically legitimate because they are not elected by the people of Israel and Palestine, and democracy could bring peace. So let's go to open discussion, and I hope that you remember the assumptions and discuss that as well. Udi, do you want to make?
Doesn't the guest get closing statement?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking him.
Guys, we have.
We're having an open discussion.
We have.
Turning over to Udi.
Yeah, we have another half an hour, and
yeah, this is the part where we're going to do general discussion. So with the closing remarks were for the simulation, not the session. So we're going to have a session now where we can have general conversation with our guest, Udi.
And Nasir is going to take over the discussion.
Yeah, so if you have a question, can you use the raise your hand feature? And then also, Udi, please feel free to speak in the topics that you wish.
I don't see the raising hand here.
Go to hit reaction at the bottom, and then there should be a key. It says raise hand.
Usually I have it.
Okay.
It's now another
Okay, just
one.
hit in the chat and I'll make a list of people if you don't see it.
Go to react and go to raise
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, or if you don't see it, Shlomo, just let me know when you want to speak. Go ahead,
Okay.
Udi.
So can we start with the open discussion?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
starting. Go.
Okay. So listen, guys, I joined here not so much for the simulation, but for the urgency that I feel to speak with every person that care about right now the Middle East. And that's why I'll join to every forum, because right now there is a genocide going on. And that's why I'm here. And when there is a genocide, it was hard for me. And you see that I was a bit impatient to something that I would be much more patient to the simulation. Because for me, what's happening now, like every night, the best of the Israeli, not the crazy one, not the Bibi and the settlers, the good guys, the middle class, the central people, the high class people, the pilots, they are the one who every night going and killing and murdering kids and babies. So we are in a place that to speak right now on federal government or something when when the opposition to Bibi Netanyahu is the head of Shabak or Naftali Bennett, it means that Israel right now in a situation that either extreme right wing not corrupted against extreme right wing corrupted. So right now I spoke a lot about binationalism. For me, it's a very important part. I see the structure very different than the way you see it. I feel that have to be a tikkun. I'm very Jewish, and has to be a tikkun before we start a simulation like that. I think that what you suggest, it's something that can come in a second stage. We are not ready for it. We are much more now in the situation maybe of the civil war, of going to fight against the Israeli, and if it has to be even armed fight of people that like was against slavery, now it's against apartheid, genocide, and things like that. And this is what for me now is much more important to speak about, is to speak and to offer, because I live in a community. My community is not a Israeli Jewish community. I live in a binational community. For me, when Edward Said wrote The Jews and the Non-European, and he offered the binational state, he understood that there are two nations, and by that he was different than George Habash and the Popular Front that offers something more democratic in a way that you guys offer here, but not so logic, because it can return all those solutions when they don't come with, they first have to be a revolutionary stage that the Israeli Jews will have to give up, almost forcibly to give up their privilege, because you cannot create this structure when all the Israeli Jews live in a film of a Jew supremacy. So in this stage right now, before we create a federal government, before we create two governments, right now for us as Israeli Jews or Jews all over the world, we have the only way we can perform our right is in solidarity, in a joint struggle of the Palestinian people for freedom and equality. Only when people will understand it, then we can start the structure that you guys offer here, or similar to it, that it's very interesting. So I don't want to give up on the dream, on the future for peace and equality, but I don't see the solution there. I see this can come after. Right now, we are in stage of emergency. Right now, whoever stay here should think what we can do right now to stop, not simulation, to stop murdering of boys, hunger of 2 million people in Nazi Germany 1939 right now, and the people in the Israeli government speaking like that. They are speaking like that, something that I would never believe to hear. So right now, whatever, any forum that exists that try to do different things, first of all, we have to do a vote that this forum call to every Israeli to refuse to, this as a group who do simulation and do other things, has to be a vote to do that. Only after we call for a clear voice against the genocide and calling for refusal to serve in the Israeli army right now, we can go back and try to do different simulation, that this is one structure that what you offer, can be other structures that I believe in them more, that don't important who is now Israeli citizen, don't think about two-state solution at all, because it's a arbitrary line what's happened there, but really understand of two nations, Israeli Jews and that Palestinian Arabs, and we have to say that the first rule, whoever is from here is from here. It means that everyone who lives between the river to the sea is equal, not to think that the Jews have to go back to the original countries, but they're part of Israel, to say that every Palestinian, wherever he is welcome back to come to home and to the land of his grandfather and great-grandfather, even if he's a rich citizenship of Sweden, he doesn't have to be a citizen. This is our dream of full equality. But right now, we are fighting against genocide. We're fighting against the Israeli government. We're joining in solidarity with the Palestinian people as Israeli, as Jews, as human beings. This is a declaration of every group that do every simulation or every other idea has to do before we start forward. That's my opening statement or closing statement or offering for discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, Udi. I also want to say to you that we had a guest a few weeks ago, Smadar Ben Natan. She's a professor at the University of Oregon.
Amazing person. Yeah.
Yeah, and she said
Yeah.
something that I just loved. She called it co-resistance. And it's a term that I've been using since.
Yeah, that's the line that,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
She took it from us. It's Tamer Nafar came with it. We are not in not coexistence, but co-resistance. Yeah.
yeah, and I will take it a further, because I believe you're hitting a point that I think is really important, that in platforms and spaces like this where you have people speaking, it's like we're talking, and it's like I tell them not just co-resistance, but co-resistance to coexistence, because we want to co-resistance is solving the problems that we have now, the occupation, the injustice, the inequality, and then we want to evolve into coexistence. And coexistence can only come once we finish with our co-resistance. I'm sorry, coexistence can only come when we're finished and achieve the goals of co-resistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eve, would you go ahead? Eve has a hand raised, and then after her, Shlomo.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to add to Udi's point that before such a government could ever be successful, there would need to be some kind of a process that would in advance. And I think one of the elements of that process would be to allow legitimate Palestinian leadership that actually represents the majority of the Palestinian people to emerge, because most of that leadership that has emerged has been imprisoned, killed, or exiled. So I think that unless there is a Palestinian leadership that can emerge from the people without the repression of the Israeli and the American state, I think that this any kind of federation would always be rigged.
Did you want to respond to that, Mr. Udi?
No, I'm listening to other people.
Okay.
I totally agree with her.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have to.
Go ahead, Shlomo.
Yeah, first of all, Udi, I agree 100% with what you said. I stopped sleeping at night like normally ever since for 19 months, and especially now that they are starving 2 million people, among 1 million children. It's beyond, it's unspeakable and incomprehensible. I have no words for it. I do my best. I live not far from DC. I go to the Congress and pound on desk and ask them how are they allow this thing to go on. And so I don't know. I actually curious what you think. What is resistance? Okay, how can we who are just little cockroaches? Well, how can we resist what?
So I want to tell you something. I was for many years involved, and I don't know how much you know, but you understood some of my history, and I was involved all the time. And also for me, it's not so important even to say anti-Zionist, because my mom, Alay Rahama, that she's, I think, the most precious person in the Israeli politics ever. She was even a Zionist and she still was belonged to equality. So I was a
Shulamit?
yeah.
Huh.
So I was. I even have a joke once that I asked Mahmoud Darwish, Alei Rahamo, what can I do to convince my mom to stop to be Zionist? And he hugged me and said, if she wants to be Zionist, let her be Zionist. And he was laughing. And I thought this common sense of the Palestinian leadership is not, it cannot be exist now under what's happening now. So there was a different time that we had more hope. Today, I'm depressed. I don't sleep at night. I feel that my people becoming like the worst words of Yeshayahu Leibovich, that I didn't like him so much before because he's a mitnaged and I'm a chassid. But the worst friend that he said, you do Nazis, we all the time thought it's a metaphor. We didn't believe that it's something that actually can really present itself. So I'm not the person that can offer what we can do. I mean, the only thing, if you heard me said that as Israeli Jews, or right now, because we are not going to be Willy Brandt, we are not going to take weapons against Israel for many reasons. But um, can you hear me? Somebody tried to call me, and hello, yeah. So I think right now we have few jobs. One is really try to convince everyone to resist and not to be so radical and not to fight too much. Like if some moderate people ready to resist, we should embrace them. We should be inclusive. We are now in an anti-fascist movement, and we have to be inclusive now and let everyone who call for resistance to support them. Mostly send the mother not to let their kids to go to the army. In America, in Europe, I work a lot in Berlin. We have to change the atmosphere. Why the West is so indifferent and support this genocide is kind of scary. And we have to use.
Oops. You're frozen.
I think he's having internet issues.
Yeah.
Give him a second.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here.
Okay, go ahead and unmute.
Unmute.
Unmute, Udi.
Okay, I
Yeah, there you
lost
go.
you for a second. Yeah. Why I was on mute? Because I said BDS?
Yeah. Yeah, these guys are all over, that's for sure.
You see, like boom, I was mute. All right, so you understand me. I don't have answer for it. I'm here, open, despair, and yet we have nothing else to do but continue to stop. If we can make the pilots not stop bombing, we will save some kids. And right now, this is our job. It's like, we are Hasidei Umot Olam of the Palestinian. That's our job, to see wherever we can support wherever. And I don't think that to join armed resistance against Israel is the right thing, because I don't think it's a solution right now. I think that should be other solutions that are more pressure and really make within the Israeli community a very strong feeling of siruvnikim, of refusnik. And I don't think we can convince them to believe that Palestinians are equal. If some people want to refuse in order to save Hatufim, hostages, it's good. If some people just don't want to die, it's good. If some people are nihilist, it's good. I don't care why, but should have a new energy, new zeitgeist in Israel that it's not cool to serve in the army. And it has to happen now, I think.
I agree 100%. 100%. I don't understand the
I can tell
Israeli.
you, I am in Israel right now, and the national feeling, the everyday feeling that I hear day in and day out is just the opposite. They are extremely nationalistic.
They
They
became Nazis.
I'm not saying Nazis, but
Okay.
they live under it is I participated in a conversation with my family members on Friday, and the sentiments that is being expressed there, I had to remain totally quiet because they would not be hearing a word of what I was about to say. It was, and it's everywhere I go. I mean, I think we have to be realistic rather than perfectionist. Perfectionism is not our enemy, is not our friend at this time.
But Yosef, we are realistic. Like to speak now on a federal government, or to speak about my dream on binational states, right now it's not realistic. To be realistic now is not what you do, it's not what I did until recently. I postponed my dream and I was put a lot of effort in binational understanding, and I postponed all of it. Right now, we are losing exactly as you described. Right now we are like in the middle, the analogy of Nazi Germany, not exactly the same thing, but the analogy of the sentiment of the people is that we like should be like partisan now. We are not creating a new dream. We are like have to be the one who sabotage the Israeli machine. We have to sabotage it. We cannot now dream. When you describe me that this is all Israel, how we can create a federal government, how we can create two governments. So many Palestinians are so ready for peace and solution. Very few Israeli are. This is the truth, you know. And right now, all we have to be enough mass of Jews. You know, I ran away from my Israeliness to exile Jewishness to save Judaism, and even this is now under threat because the Zionization of the exile created even to be a Jewish heart. And I'm fighting for my Jewishness because I'm very Jewish and my tradition is Jewish and it's important for me. And right now we have to create enough mass that will break the hegemony of what's happened now. And we have to be partisans, really. We have to sabotage the Israeli machine in any way we can. Right now, that's the only mission we can do. And the dreams. And that's why I don't mind now, whoever, if somebody, Ya'alon is named, the ex-Ramatkal, the ex-chief of staff, he was for me all the time, Ya'alon, he was a war criminal for me. But if today he's the one who said that, Boogie, if he said today that Israel committing crimes against humanity, he is my friend now. In the history, I will judge him as a war criminal for what he did 20 years ago. But right now, I just care how I can save babies and kids and hunger in Gaza and in the West Bank. Even in Jenin, where I live, they starting the same stuff. So our job now is to be warriors, not dreamers. So I'm more practical than you in a way. I don't speak so much about my dream. And I used to be like my books, my movies, everything I did was on the faith that I can create a binational community in culture, in this. This is what I eat. This is how I live. And I thought that the way of our living can be a model. And today what we do, we have a Noah Ark. We bring good people into our Noah Ark. The storm outside is so strong. We just create community that still have the language of peace and justice and equality. And we have to function to sabotage Israel in any way we can. This is the only thing we can do right now.
One sentence, by sabotaging Israel, we are in a paradoxical way, we are actually saving Israel because Israel is committing suicide in addition to the genocide. It's the two sides of the same coin. So you're right about sabotaging. Sabotaging is maybe saving Israel, but you know what? I don't care for Israel anymore. I want to save the Jews now, and I'm not sure there is salvage for them.
I said exactly. I said Israel create the genocide of the body of Palestine and the spirit of Judaism right now. That's what's going on now, and I want to save the body of Palestine and the spirit of Judaism. That's really my target now. And okay, I see people voting, so let's a little bit other people speak because
sure. I'm gonna call on Libby and then Mr. Mori and then Suzanne. Go ahead, Libby.
Yeah, all of this is very frustrating because as we talk about what's going to solve the problem, in the meantime, horrific things continue to happen and genocide is right and people are dying right and left and starvation is totally unacceptable. And to do it in the name of a religion is so anti-religious. I mean, it has nothing to do with being a good Jew or a good Christian or a good Muslim to murder your brother and your sister. It's so contrary to what it means to be a good human being. I think we just have to really shake ourselves out of this and see that war doesn't work. It's destroying the planet, not just in the Middle East, but all over the planet. And one of the models that has just taken place that I think is inspiring and shows a way through is when the combatants for peace do their joint Memorial Day ceremony. And I don't know how many of you are aware of it or saw it on Zoom or know that it's been happening for a number of years, where the two peoples come together and share their personal stories of grief and loss and their dream of building a world that works for everybody. That is what is being called for now. And until we begin to see each other as human and equal, and until we see that war is obsolete, nothing's going to change. And we're destroying each other and we're destroying the planet, trying to maintain our own personal power and position. So I don't know how you handle the Trumps and the Netanyahus and the people who want to be the king of the hill and control everything and everybody. But it is we at the grassroots level, I think, who have to stand up for our moral principles, whatever it takes. When you treat your enemy as your friend, when you see each other as human and equal, that's what's being called for. And so whether it's done through this process that we've been doing for years and years, and Joseph, I don't know how you stay patient and stick with it, but it's one approach. But I think if we can learn to see that we're all in this together, somehow we can figure it out. We have to stop posing each other as an enemy and see that we're all in it together. I know you all heard this over and over, but
I want just to refer your language, even though the sentiment I agree, there is something of equality on the language you do that it's not my language anymore. It's not we have to see both sides the enemy. The Palestinians are not my enemy. They are my oppressed people. We're not in a people that have to accept each other. Right now, like the same way I wouldn't say the Jews and the German have to accept each other, or the black and the white have to accept each other. Right now, there is oppressor and oppressed. There is people who making genocide. And right now, for me, to perform my Jewishness is not that we see each other. Right now, the only way I can do to perform my Jewishness is to stand in full solidarity with Palestine. I have nothing else to do right now. And I will not use what in the like we have to recognize each other, we have to be human to each other. Right now, the demand is only for me. The demand is for me to be in full solidarity. The signifier of universalite is Palestine today, and every person in the world have to stand for Palestine, because what's happened there is not only Israel, is United States and Germany and all the West that support and help this genocide. Something horrific happened here, and it's beyond even my understanding. So right now, for me, this is for me. I'm a Jew, therefore I stand with Palestine. This is the only line they said, not understanding each other, not recognizing each other. I don't have any more the double place. It's one direction.
Thank you. Mr. Mori.
Yeah, I just totally agree with what Woody-san said, really. And so I'm just wondering how far, Netanyahu will heading for, getting at what direction. And so I really don't find any word to express my feeling, but I just got mad. But no, I think your idea about sabotage, that kind of stage we already in, and so that means solidarity is kind of not. So as you said, we're now talking. We should not talk about whether it's kind of injustice or things like that. It goes, what you're saying is you already went far. Okay, your interpretation of the conflict now is just right now, action right now. That's something like that. And to me, and just how, but how, just even in Japan. So right now, just a couple of days ago, okay, in hotels in Kyoto, okay, and just ask Israeli tourists, inbound tourists, to sign, okay, sort of to declare that no, I don't, okay, commit a crime, okay, and I've never murdered children or women, things like that, signature. And so it happened. And then so Israeli embassy just put in I think in a, just to put in the not Facebook, but no, I think the SNS anyway. And so I think, and then so it said that okay, and they are actually, the embassy is protesting against Japanese government to show the document, okay, and then so, but those just a few. I think that this is the first time, and so that's why, and the media pick up at this as a topic, okay, and then how it goes. But just also, I think so I don't know why, okay, and Japanese government just okay, and limit this kind of give a very strict policy as far as the okay Israeli citizen, okay, Israelis, especially Israeli IDF soldiers, okay, try to get in, try to enter into Japan, and so just they have to show, they have to prove that they never kill, they never commit war crime, okay, things like that. And so, and then so if they killed before, they had an experience of killing children or women, okay, as an IDF, and so, oh sorry, we cannot allow you to go in to Japan, something like
This
that.
is, I
So
think it's a great, I want to just one thing. I think it's a great idea, but I really have to go soon. I see there is Susan and Nasir. That's a slogan now, solidarity is not enough. I'll try to use it. But if Nasir and Susan will speak, and then I can say goodbye, because I took over a office here of someone in Athens, and I have to go. So, yes.
Hi,
Go ahead,
thank
Susan.
I
you.
also expect the power of the sport, okay, athlete power, especially like in war.
All right, Mr. Moore,
Was
we're gonna run out. Mr. Moore, sorry, we're gonna run out of time. So go ahead, Suzanne, and then
Thank
I
you.
okay.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all for doing this and sparking a conversation. And Udi, I really want to thank you for your persistent addressing of the truth and what's happening, and not not sublimating it at all. And I very much appreciate bringing it to the forefront. I have some feedback on the simulation itself, and some of it is the things that people have been saying. What Udi said about there's a clear oppressor and oppressed. And in the very beginning, it showed, the two people pushing back and forth against the line as if these are just two people in conflict with each other on an equal sphere. And that is not the case. So that felt like a misrepresentation. And also talking about the Israeli government and the Palestinian government. There is no Palestinian government. That's the problem. We can't have a federation of two governments without a government to represent the Palestinian people. And Eve also.
It's not a federation of two governments. It's an independent federal government, regardless of whether the Israeli or the Palestinian governments exist.
Okay. Well, at any rate, the way it was presented, in the wording was that it would be the Palestinian government and the Israeli government. And I think that in terms of the simulation, that this would work better if instead of bringing an already written policy and then saying your choice is yes or no, instead of allowing us to converse about it, shape it, and then vote on what the group has come up with, creates an artificial thing. People feel forced into going, okay, sure, yes. When, you know, just using the right of return one, like, well, that doesn't really feel right. There needs to be discussion in any, you know, even an HOA meeting. You would bring up the motion and then there would be discussion. It would get reshaped with amendments. And so just having that false vote yes or no on this, I think is creating a false outcome, because I think the 96% yes is not really accurate, because there hasn't been discussion and shaping. And I would have liked
But that's because it's a simulation.
let me just finish what I'm saying, sir. Thank you. I think like Udi wanted to do an amendment. I think that the simulation would be more accurate if we were actually simulating. Maybe just have one motion that we all discuss instead of having an agenda of 5 different things, and then let the people actually shape what the outcome would be instead of having, you know, a very narrow.
Can I? So yeah, those are remarks that would be for the process that we do here every 2 weeks, and I think that it is definitely important. There's also time constraints, but Udi has to go, and there's really a question I would like to ask him, if you don't mind, Suzanne.
Who is speaking now? Sorry.
I'm speaking. Nasir is speaking.
Hi, Nasir. Okay.
Yeah. I know you're rushed, but I have something important I wanted to ask you and talk to you about. Because I think Joseph's assessment of Israeli society is 100%, and it's the same assessment that I received, that there's a serious mindset that there's no hope for peace. There's no hope to be dealing with these Palestinians. It's over. And I think that even in the Palestinian side, we have that element as well. And, you know, I've always been a supporter of confederation, but I do support Palestinian statehood first. That's always been my approach. And maybe what you talked about is that at the current stage right now, the people who say two-state solution, like people like me, and like what you said earlier, is that the separation is needed because we need to stop the killing and war. This has to stop before anything, before we can move over to things like, how are we going to trade with each other? How are we going to do this stuff? Because in Israel, there's this mentality like, we gave you guys a state and you guys attacked us. And this meant, and it just frustrates me, because please show me the state that you gave me. They said Gaza. We gave you Gaza in 2005 and you turned it into a launching pad. So if we give you the West Bank, it's going to become a new launching pad and you're going to attack Israeli cities and do terrorism and things like this. And I just don't understand. Is it brainwashed in Israeli heads that we gave Palestinians, and the more we give them, the more they attack us? But when I look at the death of civilians, when I look at the army, and when I look at what happens, we're the ones paying the price. October 7th was a horrible day for Jews. But how many October 7th do we have to have before it rings alarm bells in their heads to say, hey, this is something that's going back. This is part of the same cycle of violence that's going on. And I just don't understand, because the majority of Israelis, I'm telling you, 80, possibly even 90%, they think like this. Like nothing is worse. We are the victim. We are the victim. Our strongest army in the region, who's attacking Syria, attacking Lebanon, attacking Gaza, attacking the West Bank, receiving all this weapons and money from US and Europe, yet we are still the victims. It's very frustrating.
Okay, I really have to go and I'll answer. The reason it's not that if two-state solution would come and end the killing, I will support it. The problem for me that the two-state solution is a sham, and it was always a sham. And if for a second it wasn't a sham, was a few months that Rabin really believed in it for a few months, and then he was murdered. But the concept is that I don't think that now, when all the masks are off, that we realize that they kill Palestinians not because they're killing anyone. They go in Jenin, they go in where the Sulta is totally collaborating with them and arresting people and shooting their own people for Israel. When you see 2 million Palestinians within Israel, and the Israeli police creating the crime in order to create ethnic cleansing also within 48, and now even they find that some police, they're the one who threw some bombs on other families to create this. So now when it's clear that the entire Israeli function to create a full ethnic cleansing, I think to try to put back the mask of the two-state solution will not help. If you tell me it help, I'll go with it. I'll go with everything now. But the question for me is really right now, we have from the river to the sea, we have 8 million Jews with full rights, and we have 7 million Palestinians with zero rights, because for me also the Palestinians within Israel don't have rights. So if this is the situation, I don't know, but I don't see without a real until Israel will lose, I don't see how voluntarily they will give up what they conquered. And now the mask is off. To bring back this mask and again to speak, it's like some of the pilots that said they're writing letters that what they do is very bad, but they don't call to refuse. And it's coming back to what we used to call shooting and crying. I don't know the solution, but we have to break this system. Like Palestinians have to get, like you have to say from the river to the sea, everyone has to be equal. Everyone have to have equal right. Now find me the solution. 2 state, 1 state, I don't care. But right now there is a force that is acting almost like Nazis, and we have to fight this force. And we have to bring every person, like everyone in the world. Now maybe we'll have a chance that Europe is joining forces against America. I don't know what the solution. I'm desperate. Like I don't have solution. But the Israeli, I don't believe them when they act as a victim. I think it's a strategy now. I thought that in the past they did believe like that. I do believe that October 7 functioned on some of them as a trauma. I'm not in denial of all that. But right now, it's look of a huge manipulation. The Israeli hear ministers, they hear prime minister, they hear member of parliament speaking exactly like Nazis. They're speaking about killing babies, hungering people. That's how they speak. It's their language now, and still the earth is not trembling. So something is so fucked up that I have no idea what to do. I don't know. Like, ask me in 43, what should I do? I don't know. I'm saving kids. I'm saving Jews from the Holocaust. I don't know what I do right now. I just want to have full fidelity that I have to continue to act, even though if we lose, and hope. Okay, I want to finish with one thing. When my friend Giuliano Merchamis was murdered in Jenin and everything fell apart, I was very depressed there. And then the philosopher Alan Badiou wrote me a text there because I said I cannot continue anymore. I lost my best friend, and he told me, just Udi, remember, the revolution is always a surprise, never a result. So I think we have to do, each one of us, as much as he can, each one in his own territory, to sabotage the Israeli government, to make Israeli officers and soldiers to know that if they go there, they will not be able to go in Europe and Japan and other places, that we will hunt them in 10 years or 20 years, that to create this fear, to sabotage their economy by boycott. And the solution might come from, I don't know, it might come from Saudi Arabia suddenly Iran. I don't know where it's come, but our duty is to fight for the justice and save people right now. We cannot do, I know it's not me 3 years ago was a whole visionary. I have dreams, utopia. Right now, I just said each one of us has to act as much as he can, and something will move. We don't know how, but something can, in a second, it all can fall apart. And there is something very so rotten in Israel that it might just collapse into itself.
Thank you. Thank you, Udi. Thank you for
Okay,
your
I have
time
to
today.
go, really, guys. I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
really have to run now. Okay.
awesome.
All right,
Thank you so much for your
I appreciate
participation.
you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, Udi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Udi.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you,
Yeah.
guys.
We feel
Thank you.
just like
And
you do, Udi. We feel the same as you do. We
And I
suffer the
want to
same.
say, Joseph, also, even though I don't agree with the simulation and all that, I'm really thankful for introducing me to such a group of people that support justice and the right thing. And this is a lot.
Well,
So I
thank
really
you for
appreciate
coming.
it.
I appreciate
Thank
your
you, Udi.
generosity
Of
and your
course.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Udi. Maybe we'll
Bye.
continue by email.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
And before we close, if you want to ask any questions to Joseph or to anyone else about the Confederation. I know Suzanne had mentioned about the process. Suzanne, it's the concept is not to show exactly how the Federation would work, because, you know, we meet every 2 weeks and we have about a 2-hour to 2.5-hour slot. Of course, in any government body, you would have legislation, but a lot of it is not about necessarily the legislation, but rather a test of the process. And if we were to sit and do amendments and stuff like that, I mean, did you see how long it took to to go through 2 legislation just voting on them? So I said the same thing when I've been participating in this for a few years now. And Joseph said to me, well, you propose a legislation then and send it to me. So he put me on the spot and I said, okay. And I sent it to him. He discussed it. It takes a lot of imagination. It takes that we have to make certain assumptions in order for us to like move the process and show an example of it. And that's why if you hear what I said to Udi in the beginning, because me and Udi, we think alike. But at the same time, I said, but listen to the process. Let's see some legislation. And then you're going to see how the Palestinian president, like me, that I was, pretending to be, how it was vetoed. And this is an example because we're showing how something was introduced, how it was voted on, how it went to the Israeli prime minister, the Palestinian president, and was basically vetoed, or something that passed, and why. And I think that's the purpose of the simulation, not to replicate exactly what, step by step.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a question to Joseph. By the way, I was kicked out from Zoom and I had to reboot my computer. So Joseph, you are there and you see the Israelis and you understand that there is nobody to talk to right now over there. I mean, you maybe a few. I mean, look.
Well, no, look, tomorrow I have a meeting here at the hotel, and different Israelis are going to show up. Those that support the concept, that want to learn more about it. But the bread and butter Israelis, like Nasir said, they see themselves as victims. They see themselves under threat. They see themselves as under the threat of being annihilated by the Palestinians. So from their perspective, don't get me wrong, it's not my perspective. From their perspective, it's either us or them. That's how they see it, okay? So between them or the Palestinians, they choose them. I mean, you are subjected here to 24/7 propaganda. There is no objective discussion at all. Even Haaretz, which is supposed to be a left-leaning paper, there is no objective discussion. If you tell the Palestinians, which I tried to do, I said, look, you care about the hostages. You should have cared about the hostages before there were hostages. You should have cared for the Palestinians. And they go, what are you talking about? We gave them this, this, and this, just like Nasir said. They live in fear, whether it's artificial or real, it's hard to know, but they live in fear. And what I think that we are proposing is a system that they will not be able to resist if we are able to create awareness of a federal government. Even the taxi driver that I rode with yesterday, who is a very right-wing Israeli, when I presented that idea, and another person, the person that came to my hotel to check on my hot water, I mean, it's all the same thing. And then when you present an idea to them and you actually have a conversation, they go, halavai, meaning, let's hope so, let's hope so. I mean, there is some, when you actually have a discussion and you deal and you say, well, What are your options? What are your options? Do you want to continue to fight in Gaza, to fight the Yemens, to fight the Syrians, to fight everyone on earth? And they go, no, 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 we don't want to do that. Do you want your children and grandchildren to continue to fight? No, no, I don't want it. I want to leave the country, one guy told me. I said, well, where are you going to go? So when you present a reasonable solution, you have, I think, if we have an awareness, if we have an actual election based on the assumptions, I think we can reach those assumptions. And, you know, Udi, I agree with everything he says, but he hasn't offered a solution. I mean, I've been a lawyer since 1981, and I see disputes, even heavy disputes, going on, and both sides take an extreme position, and they're very emotional. And then at the end of the day, they realize they're being forced to realize, they realize we have to find a solution. Otherwise, we're all suffering. We're all going to be suffering. Palestinians and Israelis, we're all going to be suffering. And we have irresponsible governments, and especially the Israeli government. And they're using the Israeli suffering or the Israeli people for political purposes, for political purposes. And we have to find a way to show the world that there is a way to. We have 14 million people here. What are we talking about? What is the defeat is going to be? Well, what is the victory going to be here? There is not going to be victory for either side.
Yeah.
Okay, I said enough.
It's funny that they talk about Hamas using the people in Gaza as a human shield. No, it's Netanyahu and his government who is using the Israelis as their human shield. And they
Well,
say
it's funny you mentioned that. Last night I walked in the center of Tel Aviv. They have a huge building right in the center near Azrieli. Everyone knows where it is. And it's what they call I don't know what, but it's the center of the Israeli military operation, right at the center of Israel. Aren't they using the Israelis as human shields?
Absolutely.
It's right near the biggest shopping mall. It's right at the center of Tel Aviv. Isn't that using Israelis as human shield? They're totally hypocrites.
Totally, yeah. Yeah. It's either us or them. That's the problem. That's the concept, and that concept came already in 48. Once you start killing and killing and killing, then it is then you're either killing them, all of them, or they will kill you. And now the fear that Israeli feel is the fear of the criminal, of the murderers, who after killing so many, of course, he knows there should be a punishment here. So is the criminal a crime and punishment situation here.
Yeah. All right, Nasir, everyone, thank you so much.
Thanks, Joseph. Joseph, is it going to be alive, your event tomorrow, or
no?
Oh,
It's going to be in person.
Okay.
It's not going to.
Did you meet my contacts in Jerusalem? The ones that I know they had.
You know what? I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I saw it at the
Okay.
beginning. Can you send it to me again, please?
I am, but
I was
the
searching
issue
for
is
it and I couldn't find
they're gonna be in the West Bank tomorrow. They have an event that they already planned. So they're not gonna be in Jaffa. I
Oh,
wanted, yeah, but I
okay,
thought that
because
since you were at the
on
conference,
Friday,
they
I'm
were at the
going to
conference.
Bethlehem.
Okay. I'll send you the contact
I
again.
saw it initially and I was so busy and then I cannot find it anymore.
Yeah, I've sent them a few people and I don't know, they seem kind of flaky, but I will try to send it again and reach out to them.
Okay, Thank you
Okay.
so much, Nasir.
Sure, sure. Mr. Mori
Okay, thank
has
you,
your hand
everyone.
up. I think Mr. Mori, we're about to leave. Mr. Mori, he's muted.
Kumiko.
Mr. Mori, you're muted. We can't hear you. But I'm gonna go, everybody. So I will see you guys
All right,
next time.
thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.